What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and it turns out that I was wrong. Well, realistically, we were kind of all wrong about a story that I covered just a few days ago here on the channel, and I felt like it was important for us to go back and kind of correct this story. I didn't really feel very comfortable with the idea that this video and this narrative was out there, considering kind of the circumstances around what happened, also the fact of the matter being that the story that was initially told was completely incorrect. So obviously when making this video, I was going off of what the news was reporting because, well, that's the best way to usually get credible information about these kinds of things. There's not really that many eyewitness accounts that you can find independently online or anything like that, if even really any at all. And so I just kind of wanted to talk about it, man. So if you do remember the details of the story, you will, of course, remember that this whole situation happened on a SERTA train in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, here in the United States. A woman was sexually assaulted on this train for minutes, while it was reported that the people who were on the train as witnesses did not attempt to intervene, and that many of them actually ended up pulling their phones out, basically recording the scene as if it was something, you know, for social media or something like that. Obviously, when you hear that story, it's absolutely disgusting, and people were rightfully very upset about it. It made the news pretty much nationally, if not globally, and even in the comments of that video, many people were pretty much sympathetic for the woman while also stating, yeah, why did these people witness this happen with no sort of repercussions for the person doing it, didn't attempt to intervene or call 911. But it turns out actually that this whole story was actually false. Now, of course, the crime really was committed on this train. That part was not false. But the detail about the passengers basically not caring / not intervening was not true whatsoever. So, quote, "We want everyone to be angry, disgusted, and to join us being resolute in keeping our system safe," he added. "We need the public to notify us when they see something that seems to be unusual." Another police superintendent, Timothy Bernhardt of Upper Darby, also said last week, "It's disturbing that there were definitely people on the L and no one did anything to intervene or help this woman. It speaks to where we are in society. I mean, who would allow something like that to take place?" Apparently no one. In a bombshell new opinion piece for Philadelphia Magazine, journalist Ernest Owens, also a contributor for The Grio, writes, quote, "Police lies about SEPTA riders filming a R word show yet again why we can't trust them. There is a narrative out there that people sat there on the L train and watched this transpire and took videos of it for their own gratification," Delaware County District Attorney Jack Stolzheimer said at a press conference last Thursday about the incident, per Owens' report. "That is simply not true. It did not happen. We have security video from SEPTA that shows that is not the true narrative." Owens notes that the district attorney said that there were not many riders on the late-night train, and many of those who saw the attack were in and out of the train and may not have understood what was happening. "This is the L, guys," Stolzheimer said. "We've all ridden it. People get off and on at every single stop. That doesn't mean when they get on and they see people interacting that they know that an R word is occurring." He added that 2 people may have recorded video of the attack on their cell phone, and one of them alerted the transportation authority. Okay, so this obviously is a direct contradiction to the narrative that kind of escaped and was in the media for pretty much like the last 2 weeks or so now. So the claim is that they have security video from SEPTA, which is the transit authority that overlooks this train where this took place at, that shows that what was reported was not actually true. There is some corrections to be made to the story. So there are some things I am still pretty questionable about in this, I guess, explanation here. First and foremost, they basically make it out as if like, oh, you know, you've rode the L train, guys. People get off and on at every stop. They may not have understood what they saw. I don't know, man. I mean, I've never ridden the L train or any SEPTA train or anything like that, but for some reason, man, I feel like even if I was in there for 5 minutes, like if I saw this happening, I feel like I'd be able to piece 2 and 2 together. Like I feel like I would pretty much instantly recognize what's happening because, I mean, it's such a distinct thing. Like, how many times can you really confuse sexual assault for something, right? Like, what did they think was going on? I'm not sure. But, like, personally, I think that I don't know if I buy that part, right? I feel like what it probably comes down to a little bit more is people didn't intervene because they thought that, like, you know, if they jump on this guy that they could be charged by the cops or something. I feel like that's a much more believable and plausible explanation than just, they didn't realize what they were seeing, man. It just, you know, it was a oopsie daisy moment. They just didn't see. Plus, if they didn't understand exactly what was going on, why did 2 people apparently pull out their phones and record what was going on? Like, if so many people couldn't tell what was happening and it was up in the air, why are people recording it? I'm not sure. It wasn't even guaranteed, I guess, that people did record it, but that is what is kind of believed as of the time of me making this video. One of them did, thankfully, alert, it appears to be SEPTA that they went to with this whole thing, so trying to do something about it, obviously. If the other person didn't, I'm not necessarily sure what their rationale behind that is, but obviously, this kind of changes the context of the entire story, though. This is a pretty major detail, right? Because when the story first came out, man, like, everyone was stunned. Like, how could people just sit by and watch anything like this happen? I mean, that just is such a crazy concept to most people. To just sit by and watch anything like this really kind of go down. So, thankfully, that wasn't as much of the case as it was made out to be, because obviously, it would be pretty damn disgusting, sad, and morally bankrupt for people to just kind of sit by and watch anything like that go down. And thankfully, nobody was just like Facebook living this, because that's kind of what I was figuring was going down, right? I mean, obviously, you'd have to be like a lunatic or something to just pull out Snapchat and post somebody having that happen to them to your story, like, oh, you know, look at what's happening on the L train, everybody, hashtag didn't consent. Like, no one would want to really do that. I would hope, at least, because that's just fucking like crazy to even consider. So this changes the story up pretty big. So it continues here, though. According to a report from NBC 10 Philadelphia, Stolzheimer is calling for people who may have witnessed the assault to come forward, noting that some may not have done so out of fear of prosecution. However, it is not unlawful to avoid intervening when witnessing a crime in Pennsylvania. He opined that people in this region are not, in my experience, so inhuman that they would videotape an R-word for their own private enjoyment. In his Philadelphia piece, however, Owens posits that it is not just the fact that police, quote, lied about the initial reports of the incidents being recorded, but that they, quote, mischaracterized a group of people who could now be potential witnesses in helping the victim get justice. I can kind of understand this point of view, right? I mean, if you were a witness to this and now you've seen all these headlines and articles talking about how bad of a person you were for not intervening, when it turns out that people did intervene, they did try to get a hold of people, the story and the narrative was wrong, and now that all this is coming out, of course, yeah, you could probably easily understand why they would feel discouraged from coming forward and talking, because they don't want to be identified as the social outcast, right? But it's just a fucking insane fact that this was wrong, I guess, because you have to consider that the information that this was all being based off, it wasn't some random person on Twitter or anything like that was just saying something. The information that we initially got was coming from high-up SEPTA officials and the police chiefs. This information was coming from what you would usually consider credible sources. I mean, if something happens on a train that's a crime, the two exact groups of people that I would think have the correct information would be the people who run the train and the police. You would never consider the idea that they would somehow misinform so many people, I guess. Because now that the initial reports kind of got ahead of them, it became national news, and it was getting reported by virtually everybody, and Optimus is making a YouTube video on it, and it just isn't a good idea, man. Like, I don't know what went through people's heads. I'm not sure if there was some sort of, misunderstanding, something, but this is information that you gotta get right, bro. Like, you can't be out here scaring the public like this if it's not the case, right? Of course, the unfortunate tragedy did kind of, it unfolded. I mean, there's no way around it. That woman was assaulted on the train. That was not false. But this concept that if you were somebody on the train being victimized, that people would just fucking stand around and record you as if you were a circus animal, that was a really unhealthy narrative for them to get out, right? And I don't know how you fuck it up that bad, but there needs to be some answers for that one, because that just isn't acceptable, especially from, like, the police. Because you have to think, this probably, if just off the top of my head, if I had to think, this story probably damaged the bus ridership / train ridership in Philadelphia. I'm pretty sure this probably put a little bit of a dent in public transit users, right? Because I'm gonna be real, man, like, if I depend on the subway for travel or whatever, and I'm hearing that people are out here getting fucking assaulted and shit, I'm gonna be a lot more cautious and seek other ways to transport myself around town. So they gotta be better about that, man. And yeah, at the end of the day, I really just wanted to correct this because it just isn't cool. I feel like to have a video do what it did, right, to help kind of spread this unfortunately false narrative. Plus that video has like 170,000 views. That's a lot of people. And I just want to make sure that if anything, like, I'm getting the correct information back out to you guys as well, because, you know, I don't want to be that person that just isn't telling the fucking truth on here, because that's obviously not right, and I'm not really trying to have you guys, like, not believe what these kinds of things are, you know, saying. So, with that being said, though, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shop Opti down below, and until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, well, correcting the story and signing out.